Raider Nation, good morning, and I got some really good news for the nation out there. If you want Ben Johnson to be the Raiders head coach, I'm Mitchell Renz, host of the Raiders Report, and I said this late last night. The very first thing that I'm going to do this morning is I'm going to wake up, I'm going to look at the news, and then if I think there's a lot of good news, I'm going to make a video about it. And I'm telling you what, right now, I'm really excited about some of the stuff that I heard this morning. So according to ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter, which I feel like this one hurt him a little bit because he's been one of those dudes where I feel like it's painful for him to talk about Ben Johnson going to the Las Vegas Raiders. And he said the Raiders are interviewing former Lions executive and current Commanders assistant GM Lance Newmark today for their general manager job, per sources. Newmark spent 26 seasons in Detroit before joining Washington last year and is said to have a strong relationship with both Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. For those of you who do not know, Johnson and Newmark have worked together in Detroit for 5 years, and this was one of those names that when I talked a lot about, hey, if we want to bring in Ben Johnson, don't get me wrong, I've mentioned John Spytek's name a bunch, but for the people that watch the show every single day, the next name that I brought up right next to Spytek is Lance Newmark because of his relationship with Ben Johnson. So coming up here on the show, why is this good news for the Raiders? In the NFL, timing is everything. When you get done watching this video, you're going to leave today going, we got Ben Johnson, man. So why is this good news? Newmark's first interview, I think that this is good news. It's the very first interview that the Raiders do right after the Lions lose. That's important. It's also important that Newmark was at the game yesterday. Did Tom Brady talk to him? You know, like we were looking at Ben Johnson a lot. We were talking a lot about the Lions, but then on that other side of the football, Cliff Kingsbury looked like he was in his bag. The Commanders looked like they were in their bag. Jaden Daniels was in his bag. And if you watch that offense, like I'm sure Mark Davis is sitting there. I know I was sitting there going, damn, maybe we could have had that with Jaden and with Cliff Kingsbury if that contract would have gotten through. But the fact that Lance Newmark's got an interview today, the day after the Lions lost, the day after the Tom Brady was just there, I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. And then the final thing is the Raiders do have 2 in-person GM interviews tomorrow on Monday. And that is also very, very important if you want the Raiders to hire Ben Johnson. So here's what I'm going to do. If you haven't already, make sure you guys are subscribed. I know I probably still sound terrible, but that's what happens when you're hooting and hollering watching a bunch of playoff games. We were live for 7.5 hours yesterday, and if the Raiders hire Ben Johnson, which it can't be today, the only way, the earliest the Raiders can hire Johnson is going to be on Monday. So make sure you guys got those notifications turned on Monday, because if the Raiders hire Ben Johnson, I will go live for 7 straight hours at least. It's going to be fun. All right, so let's go through here. Let's talk a little bit about Lance Newmark. I'll tell you everything that the Washington Commanders have to say about him and maybe some of the things that, we could expect going forward if he's hired as the next GM for the Raiders. Then I'm going to tell you guys why the 2 GM interviews tomorrow. I'll tell you who they are, but why it's really, really big news here for the Raiders. All right, first, this is according to the Washington Commanders website. Lance Newmark enters his first season as assistant general manager of the Washington Commanders. Newmark reports directly to Commanders general manager Adam Peters and oversees Washington's personnel and scouting departments. Adam Peters was the number 1 GM that I wanted the Raiders to get last season. He's got a lot of ties with San Francisco, and Newmark working with him and also working with a lot of the people that he did in Detroit, I think is getting a lot of really, really good experience. And also Lance Newmark would be a first-time GM, which is something that, as we know, Jed Hughes looks at very, very closely when hiring GMs. Newmark joins the Commanders with 28 years of NFL experience, including 26 seasons with the Detroit Lions. He most recently held a role as senior director of player personnel for Detroit and helped oversee both the college and pro scouting operations. He also assisted with the weekly management of the Lions roster and assisted Lions executive vice president and general manager Brad Holmes with the implementation of Holmes' scouting vision throughout the entire personnel department. So that's telling you somebody that's got a lot of experience working not only in the college game, but working in the pro game as well. And if you're the Raiders, you got $108 million in salary cap space. We need a lot of people that can scout some of these pro players and bring some of these dudes in. You also need somebody that can scout from a college standpoint. Right now, as it stands, we have 10 picks. I project we're going to get 11, maybe 12 after some of the comp picks, end up rolling through here. But he's had 26 years at one spot. 26 years with Detroit is another one really big thing that Jed Hughes looks for when he's trying to build a team, because he wants a lot of continuity and he wants you to be able to like be at one spot and learn, because that shows a lot of growth, and that also shows that, you know, that company, that business wants to keep you. So that's another one really good thing here. Newmark previously oversaw the day-to-day operations of the Lions football information and football technology departments and served as the liaison, I don't think I pronounced that right, between these departments and Lions player personnel function. He played influential roles in both the Lions NFL draft and NFL free agency period process. I like that a lot as well, because I always say, obviously at free agency draft, I want a GM and I want somebody in the NFL that's not afraid of technology. What do I mean by that? Just like, think about your dad. Think about your uncle. Think about your mom. Think about your grandma, your grandpa, whoever. When you put technology in front of them, I think you would probably run circles around their ability to use technology. Newmark is somebody who's very experienced using the internet, using his resources. Why is that important? It's because you can say anything you want. You can talk a lot of ball. You can know a lot of ball. But I'm going to run circles around somebody that doesn't know how to use technology, because I can watch all 22 film. I can go on social media, and I can look at a lot of tape. I can see what smart people around the NFL are saying. You can see what very highly regarded people, because if you're going to be somebody that gets a job as a GM, if you're going to get somebody that gets a job in the NFL, and you're going to walk around like you're smarter than everybody, you're going to get a reality call. There's a lot of really smart people that, let's just say, might not be NFL coaches, that might not have NFL jobs. But there are a lot of really intelligent people that cover this stuff every single day. And if you don't use all of your resources possible, I'm sorry, you are losing the battle. So the fact that Newmark can use technology, for a lot of the OGs that watch the show, really good news there. Prior to being named the Senior Director of Player Personnel in 2022, Newmark served as the Director of Player Personnel for 5 seasons from 2016 to 2021. He also held roles as Director of College Scouting, Assistant Director of College Scouting, National Scout, and Area Scout. So a lot of experience, and I think in building teams up. And Newmark is, I think, everything right now the Raiders are looking for. Him and John Spytek have been the two names that I have really wanted the Raiders to go out and get. The last thing is this. Newmark got a start in the NFL at the San Diego Chargers, where he spent 2 seasons as a staff member. It does sound like also he's got a lot of ties to California. He is from California, which, I don't know, man. Maybe he grew up a Raider fan. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. So how about this? How many times have you been asked this week, and I want you to let me know down in the comments, why would Ben Johnson take the Raiders job? It's been a question that I've been asked, right? And I know there's Bears fans that are crying about it. Hell, there's NFL media guys that are crying about it. Heck, there are Jags people crying about it. Everybody's crying about it because I don't know why the NFL hates the idea of Ben Johnson pairing up with the Raiders. But usually when people are this against it, it's because they're afraid, which I like a lot. And I like that Ben Johnson has the confidence where he can walk into a division with Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, Andy Reid, and not feel intimidated. I like that he feels like with Tom Brady, they can build something really special. That's fun. But I get asked, why would Ben Johnson want to come to the Raiders? You want to know what the perfect answer is? To do exactly what the Washington Commanders just did to the freaking Detroit Lions. Ben Johnson has an opportunity to get a brand new GM, be a brand new head coach, get a brand new OC, get a brand new DC, get a brand new quarterback, and on a roster that nobody thought was going to be good, you give him a blank canvas and let that artist paint, and you let him put together a roster. You let him put together a team. You let it. See what a quarterback can do to a roster? See what a quarterback can do to just adding a little bit of swagger? When you look at that paper and you look at that Commanders team, that's not a team that should compete. It's not a team that should win 2 playoff games. But because Jaden Daniels is in his bag right now, because Cliff Kingsbury is in his bag right now, because that team's got a lot of confidence, they got a lot of swagger. Wouldn't you want to take that down? You know what's a good way to take it down? Go get somebody that's learned from that organization and I get it. It's only been 1 year, but he's had to learn a lot. So why would you not take exactly what the Commanders did and apply it? They had a lot of money in free agency. They had a lot of draft picks. They are in the exact same situation the Raiders are in. They don't have Tom Brady. They're in a big division with a lot of big name teams in that. The NFC East is probably the division that gets, the most attention because of the Cowboys. And guess what? Those guys didn't back down. So if I'm looking at Ben Johnson And if I'm going, well, I just went through and we just got our shit pushed in by the Commanders 45-31 yesterday. Lance Newmark and I, we're good buddies. I wonder if Tom talked to him. Why do you want to be a part of the Raiders? To do exactly what the Commanders just did to the Lions and to do exactly what the Commanders are doing right now, shocking the NFL world, and they are one of the final 4 teams. They have a shot. They're either going to play the Eagles, they're either going to play the Rams in the NFC Championship game to either take on Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, or Lamar Jackson. Tip your cap to the Washington Commanders, what they did. I think it also showed when you have somebody that's in power, and the Commanders had somebody in power who, let's be honest, was a dirtball. He's no longer there. It can show how quickly it can change when you get rid of the guy at top. I'm not taking a shot there at Mark. We're giving him a shot. He brings in Ben Johnson, and I'm not going to say anything bad. We're all in on BJ. But why would Ben Johnson want that job? To do exactly what the Commanders did to the Lions yesterday. Blank canvas. Let's run that shit up. Coming up next here, though, more Raiders news that you got to see, especially around the GMs, because what did I say earlier? Timing is everything. And I'm about to blow some minds here on the show. Before I do that, though, I know we're talking a lot about BJ's, Ben Johnson blowing minds. You know what also blows my mind? That Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Though, I was really hoping that I was going to get my money yesterday, but I took Will Howard 1 passing yard, which I know that game hasn't happened yet. Pretty confident he's going to get a passing yard. And I did C.J. Stroud 1 passing touchdown. My guy Stroud let me down. I had $10, lost it, had a chance to win 22. Don't worry. I can still make some money. My lineup today, I'm really hoping for is, again, I took Will Howard 1 passing yard. I took a demon pick, Josh Allen, 49.5 rush yards. Took the more on that. It's going to be a really, really cold game. If it's up to me, I'm going to put the ball in Josh Allen's hand a lot. And when it's really, really cold, Allen from Wyoming, he's got a lot of experience going out there, and he's got a lot of experience running the football. So hypothetically speaking, that's $9.75 to pay $34.13. I'm going to be watching that game anyway, and every time Josh Allen tucks and runs, I'm telling you this right now, I'm going to be screaming my head off. Man, I can't wait. So download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Those links for all y'all are down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. All right, let's get into the Raiders news that maybe you might have missed. So yesterday, while the Lions and Commanders game was going on, I know for a fact Brandon Brown, while that game was going on, assistant Giants GM Brandon Brown was requested for a second interview in person for the Las Vegas Raiders. And the reason why this is really important is Brandon Brown is somebody who has been marked as loves Shedeur Sanders. And if I'm the Raiders, I am going to bring in people that have the same mindset that I do, even if you don't plan on hiring Brandon Brown. So if I'm the Raiders, what am I going to do? I'm going to sit down with Brown. I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to pick his brain. Talk to me about Shedeur. Why do you like Shedeur? Why would you take Shedeur? Are the Giants at number 3 going to take Shedeur, right? Like, if you ask me right now, what team do I think is the most likely to take Sanders in the draft? And I know there's going to be a lot of people like, we don't want Sanders. I'm pretty sure the Raiders want Sanders. I'm just telling you, man. Tom Brady wants him. We're not going to get into that today. It's not what this show's about. But you should pick his brain and see, hey, do the Giants want him? How much do you want him, right? Like, if Brandon Brown goes in there and he's like saying Shedeur, and the Raiders are sitting there at pick number 6, the Giants at number 3, I'm going to then talk to the GM that I think the Raiders are actually going to hire. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be Brown. And I'm going to go, hey, well, this guy, he works for the Giants. He freaking loves Shedeur Sanders. I think we're going to have to move up into the draft. And again, timing is everything. Deion Sanders a few days ago says there's a couple. I think Deion's a very smart man with his words, a wordsmith, if you will. He does things on purpose. Says there's a couple of teams that I wouldn't want Shedeur to go to. Couple, 2, Tennessee, Browns, 1, 2. Next team, at number 3 is the Giants. I think that why the Raiders are bringing in somebody like Brandon Brown is to pick their brain and, talk to him about Shedeur. Also see what the Giants are going to do, and I think it's going to set up a little bit of extra conversations going forward because Raiders got to go get their QB this year, and I think they're going to try to trade up to go get Shador. Let's also talk about Chad Alexander. He also has a second in-person interview with the Las Vegas Raiders on Monday. Okay? He is somebody who's worked with Joe Horitz. He's had, he's been a part of the Baltimore Ravens organization. Howie Newsom, I think, is one of the greatest GMs of all time. And that's one of those interviews that you bring in a young mind, and this is one of those young kids where I think people talk about Chad Alexander in GM circles kind of the way that people talked about Ben Johnson a few years ago. I don't know if Alexander is ready to step in right away to do it now. Maybe if you paired Alexander with somebody like, Champ Kelly, who's kind of been in the ropes for it a little bit, could be an interesting pairing, I'm not going to lie. But I think it's another young man that you pick his brain a little bit and you just see what he's got. You try to take a little bit more information away from one of your division rivals, the Los Angeles Chargers. Mike Borgonzi, the assistant GM for the Chiefs, he just took a job for the Titans. I would have been curious to see if they would have tried to bring him in. But the reason why this is important is because, and I've said this a bunch here on today's show, so I hope you're catching a theme here, timing is everything. Earlier in the video, I said the earliest the Las Vegas Raiders can interview Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn is on Monday. I also said that the Raiders, when they have an in-person interview, they're not going to hire Ben Johnson unless they do an in-person interview. If you get an update from me, if you get an update from anybody that says that the Las Vegas Raiders are interviewing Ben Johnson on Monday, buckle up, Buttercup. If you get the notification on Tuesday that he's interviewing on Tuesday, buckle up, Buttercup. Because I say that because I think if Ben Johnson interviews, they're not going to let him go. But there's rules in the NFL, right? There's a rule in the NFL called the Rooney Rule. If you don't know what the Rooney Rule is, it means you have to interview at least 2 minority coaches for a head coach and GM position in person. The Raiders have already satisfied the Rooney Rule from a head coaching standpoint. I believe they met with Robert Saleh in person already. I know they met with Vance Joseph, and I know they met with Aaron Glenn. That's 3 candidates there, at least, that are minorities. Timing is everything in the NFL. Now, I'll say this. I don't love the Rooney Rule when it's used maybe in the way that the Raiders are going to use it, but I don't want people to rip the Raiders organization because if there's one organization that I will not tolerate it, because the Raiders have been the first organization to hire minority coaches, to hire women in high executive positions like Sarah Morgan. We've been able to hire a lot of, when I say Sarah Morgan, I'm thinking about TV shows. Sarah Douglas, we've hired women in very important positions, women of color, men of color. So, I'm telling you this right now, don't want to hear anything in regards to that. But this is important because Brandon Brown and Chad Alexander, in-person interviews, are both minority candidates. So, I'm thinking, and this is me just, again, spitballing, this is what this show's about. So, you're telling me Tom Brady has an opportunity to talk to Ben Johnson and Lance Newmark on that Saturday game, Commanders-Lions. Again, can't talk to him behind the scenes, all that type of stuff. You could talk to him on the field, though. There's certain rules and regulations which we have talked about before. The very next interview after the Lions, they're done, their season's over. Very next interview, Lance Newmark, somebody who's got great connections with Ben Johnson, and they are interviewing him today. Why? Get the ball rolling. Monday, the 2 candidates that are coming in, 2 minority candidates to satisfy the Rooney Rule. So if you're Tom Brady, if you're the Raiders, and maybe you had a conversation with Johnson, and Johnson's like, hey, the number 1 guy I want is Lance Newmark. Why wouldn't you start getting the ball rolling? Right? Like John Spytek, one of the very first names that the Raiders brought up. Why not get the ball rolling? So the fact that these 2 minority candidates are going to be interviewing on Monday, and you can both pick their brains about very important things that the Raiders are going to be looking at, whether it's Shador Sanders in the draft, whether it's Chad Alexander building a really solid team from an AFC West Division rival. You add all of that together, and if you woke up this morning and you didn't think everything that I just said there was good news, bro, I'm telling you this right now, you better check your pulse. So I said I wanted to cover that Lions game, and I wanted to cover that Commanders game to watch Ben Johnson in his bag. I'll say this, if you're somebody that watched that game yesterday, there was a lot of Raiders fans who were like, oh, this is why we can't hire Ben Johnson. Lions had over 550 total yards. Jared Goff played really, really bad. The team put up 31 points. You're not going to win many games. If you come away from that game saying, I don't want Ben Johnson, respectfully, I don't trust your opinion to be able to watch football. But the amount of fun, creative plays that they had, don't get me wrong, there was a few plays that I'll pick apart there where the Jared Goff fumble, don't love that play call. 3rd down and 1, you had a running back right next to Goff. You send him out wide. Goff then fumbles. But still, Goff's a veteran, can't fumble in that situation. The interception by Jameson Williams, they try to get a little bit creative, but that's also when Goff went down. Teddy Bridgewater's in the game. Jameson Williams throws a pick, but I think you also got to tell Jameson there, hey, bro, like, you can't throw that ball. But it's also trusting your guys because they also, when Jared Goff went down, Teddy Bridgewater's in the game, end around 60 yards, Jameson Williams, touchdown. This time it was like the opposite way of the field, and they just changed up the play a little bit. You also see an unbelievable play, the one that made Tom Brady lose his mind, and I lost my mind live, when it was Jared Goff, shotgun, David Montgomery on his left hip, hike, hand off to Montgomery. Amon-Ra St. Brown comes in motion across, and instead of Goff pitching it to him, it was a handoff to Montgomery. Montgomery pitched it to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Forward pass, first down Lions, right? Like, Brady's like, I've never seen that before. When the amount of times when you watch Ben Johnson and he does something where you're like, wow, I just never seen that before, it just reminds me so much of a guy like Sean McVay, of an Andy Reid, of these coaches where you're like, I'm not worried about it because that guy's doing shit that nobody else does. And when you see that and when you know he has the confidence that he does and you pair that with Tom Brady, somebody else who was like, you know what, I might not have all the gifts in the world, but I'm just one bad mother effer. You put that guy together with somebody that's got the confidence in Ben Johnson. You put that together with somebody like Lance Newmark, who's helped the Commanders build something really special in 1 year. I think the Raiders are about to build something really, really special in 1 year, and hope y'all are ready to celebrate with me this season. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure those notifications are turned on. Spam BJ down below if you made it this far in the video. Hit that like button if you made it 21 minutes into this video. I know it's early on Sunday. I can't wait to watch some playoff games today. I don't care who wins in the Eagles and Rams game. I'd be excited for LA. That city deserves it. But from a chat sports standpoint, I kind of want the Eagles to win. I want my guy Chase to be able to have some success. And that Bills and Ravens game, all I want is a high-scoring game. I want a lot of fun, but I want whatever team I think has the best chance of beating Patrick Mahomes. Real talk. That's all I want. Whatever team is the best to beat the Chiefs, to beat Patrick Mahomes. Though, if you like stats, the last 3 teams that tried to get a three-peat all lost in the all lost in the conference championship game. Fingers crossed, man. Bills, Ravens, whoever you are, please take down the Chiefs. All right, y'all, reminder, if the Raiders hire Ben Johnson on Monday, Tuesday, whenever, it's not going to be today, I will be going live for at least 7 hours here on the Raiders Report. Buckle up, Buttercup. For more videos here around the Las Vegas Raiders, make sure you click this subscribe button right here. If you want even more content, I promise you, this is either going to be a recent video or a video that YouTube recommends for you. And this video is going to be the exact opposite of what I just said over here. Bottom line, if you love watching the Raiders Report, it's going to recommend shows that he thinks they like for you. So try those out and click that sub button.